Okay, so you're gay because you kind of it's always different.
I think it just sounds like nothing.
Now, I'll tell you, if we had one of our investigators who's worked with us for years, Nicholas Spring, if he was here, we nicknamed him the Crusher of Dreams, in the nicest way, Nick. I just want to say it's in the nicest way. He you would take a photo and you have like an orb or a mist, and he'd be like, "No, that's the light from over there. It's coming in. It's hitting this. It's causing that." And it was the same thing with EVPs. So he would have considered it. I'm gonna channel him right now because he's not here. He would consider it to be mind matrixing, and I think I've experienced this too. Where if you're looking at a ghost photo, you can make yourself see something that's not actually there, or if you're listening to an EVP, you can make yourself hear of something that's not actually there. And I had EVPs from that Merritt House investigation I mentioned, and to me, they were clear as day. And I play them for somebody else and be like, yeah, no, I hear what you're hearing, but I don't hear those words. And I was like, and I say, don't you hear? I'm like, I'm hearing it right now. I'm playing it for you. Like, make me feel insane, but yeah, no,
that's just different people interpreting things.
You could also look at the opposite way. Maybe they don't want to believe, so they're putting an opposite spin on it.
Yeah,
that's going. Yeah, the two types of skeptics, right? There's the ones that are very scientific, and the ones that just scares the living crap out of them.
My sister from the last one, where she's like, I see everything that's going on. I refuse to accept it. And it's like, I swear she's adopted, but she doesn't think so.
That's why it is
Just that on air.
good procedure. If you're going to share EVPs with someone, don't tell them what you hear. Just start the recorder and say, tell me what you hear.
Exactly.
Don't give your evidence away, because then you're perhaps putting it into their mind what they should be listening for.
That's
Just
true.
turn on the recorder, let it play, and then you ask them, what did you hear?
Right.
It's a good tip.
That's what you have to do.
That's a good tip.
Yeah,
And
that's the way I do it.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's the same thing with ghost photos. I don't know, maybe I'm jaded because of over the years I've probably gotten through email like hundreds of different ghost photos, and I'll tell you, 95% of them orbs, always orbs, and and I'm very jaded about it. So I'll have somebody send me something, and it's nothing specific, but like the house in Niagara on the lake that we talk about, the old Trish Romance Gallery.
I sent that to you.
Okay, well, no, it's not yours I'm talking about
Oh, okay.
though, because I've received like
I still believe it was a lady.
Well, yeah.
Even though you said it wasn't, I still believe it is.
But see, that's it again. Maybe I'm
She doesn't
jaded.
believe I believe.
Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I'm not seeing this stuff
Yeah.
anymore. But I've had people send them to me and say that they see a man wearing a top hat with a monocle, holding a cane, looking out. Maybe he's waving. It's so specific. Like it's to the color of hair. It was you. Had a white beard. No, it's but and then they would send it to me, and I'm like, I'm so excited to see this photo, and then I would look at it, and it's like the tiniest little bit of mist, and I'm like, oh, how are you seeing this? But again, it comes out of the idea of that mind matrix thing that I don't think they're lying to me. I think they're telling me that that's what they see, but it's not what other people see.
Well, it drives me crazy when that happens, because, okay, someone will submit a photograph. Well, what they've done is they've taken a picture with a crappy camera of a house 2 blocks away. They've used computer software to zoom in on the window of this house 2 blocks away. Well, if you know anything about photography, that picture gets so pixelated by zooming in like that. You can't make out anything, and it's your mind going, oh yeah, man in a top hat with a monocle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially if it's really blurry. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with blurry ones, I usually do kind of back away, and I'll tell the person, like, it's just too blurry. You can't tell. Because, yeah, you can see anything in that. It's like was it the Rorschach test? Is that what it's called? Where the ink blots and you decide what you see?
Well, it's like with digital photography. When the camera companies are telling you those little white spots in your camera, unused pixels, because it's new technology and it's not fixed yet. It's not an orb, it's just a pixel. Like when people go, or they take a picture at night somewhere and they go, there's no light out, but you took a flash picture. You do have light when you take the flash. I know Nick, and we've looked over a lot of pictures together, and I agree with Nick, but a lot of times there's just nothing there.
Yeah, orbs are... okay, before I say this, not to put anybody... Who believes in orb photos? I don't want to insult anybody. No, I'm good?
Oh,
A little bit? Okay, I'll tell you. There
Believe
are
yourself.
legit. There are legit.
can happen. I've got one that I cannot dispute as dust or anything like that. Again, it was at the custom house, the tricycle upstairs. We were taking photos and running video at the same time. Video, we were running our laser grid against the wall over top of the tricycle. And on video, we have a green mist floating through the laser grid. And at the same time, Trudy was taking pictures, and she got this blue orb coming out of the bell that was on the bicycle's handlebars, and there's this vapor trail behind it, perfectly cylindrical, going back into...
See, that's different, though, because you had a supporting experience. Like
But
before that
just to
happened.
say that not all orbs are dust or bugs, because I believe I've got one that's absolutely authentic.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick example as well. Some of you might have already heard me tell this story ad nauseum, but the listeners haven't. It was in Niagara-on-the-Lake years and years ago. One of our tour guides, who was like way into the paranormal, she was leading a group late at night and got to the Simcoe Park, which is across the street from the Prince of Wales Hotel. And she's about to tell the story of the Prince of Wales and Molly Maguire, and she looks and she sees a swing set in the park, and just one swing on the swing set of 3 is violently swinging back and forth. Now, the side note is there's no wind. So, being a huge believer in the paranormal, she's not going to run the opposite. She goes in, like brings the entire group behind her, and they get up to the swing, and they stand there, and she's watching the thing still moving in front of her. She's about to reach out and touch it when she said a flash went off behind her, and the swing slowly came to a stop. Now, she turned around, and somebody had taken a photo. Now, she just forgot about it at that point, continued with the tour. And it wasn't until the very end. She was just saying goodbye to everybody, and the couple who had taken the photo came up to her and showed her the picture of the swing seat, and right in the middle of the seat was a bright orb. So there you have, something. There's an experience with it. There's an energy that was happening with it, like it wasn't raining and it wasn't windy. So, it's more valid that way. Anybody else have any thoughts on like orb photos?
Mars does.
Okay, so Mars from a distance comes in with an interesting orb photo. Okay, so I'm going to describe it. Is this the Screaming Tunnel? Yeah, that's the Screaming Tunnel. Oh, what is that? Almost looks like a massive moon. So just describe it.
35 millimeter camera.
35 millimeter camera. A bunch of people standing in the tunnel. It's probably one of our bus trips.
Yep.
And in the tunnel, it's dark. It's light on the outside of the tunnel, but in the tunnel, it's dark, and you see this massive orb kind of up. I'll pass it around there. So yeah, no, that it almost looks like, it looks a little bit like the Death Star from Star Wars.
Explain it. It's on the negative too.
It's on the negative as well.
It's on the negative.
It doesn't look like dust, and
No.
it wasn't raining. Or can you remember if it was raining that
Yeah,
day?
it doesn't have dust characteristics
No,
to
that
it.
is.
No, it's solid.
That's too solid.
That falls
Yeah.
under the
It almost looks like it has a shadow on it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't explain it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's something that would be on the lens either.
No, I've got a 35 millimeter picture of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's not an orb, but there's actual face on the wall.
Oh, really?
And I don't tell anybody. I say, here's the picture, what do you see? And everybody points to the face.
Wow.
Now, it still could just be the rock, because I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I only took the one picture, so
Yeah.
I can't compare it to another one. But
Yeah.
there's just been some funny pictures in that tunnel.
Yeah. Well, I can't explain that. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Screaming Tunnel, for those who don't know, if anybody wants to see what it looks like listening to the podcast, watch the movie The Dead Zone from the 1980s with Christopher Walken. They filmed it in the Niagara region. The Niagara Lake gazebo's in there, one of the houses, and one of the bodies was found in the Screaming Tunnel. So they used that as a location. But it's got a legend about it. I don't know. I mean, the kids over the years in Thorold and St. Catharines have used it as a rite of passage. You go out there at night, you light the match, and supposedly the little girl sees the fire. We mentioned earlier about her being murdered in there, and she gets scared. You'll hear a scream, and a wind goes through to blow it out. Now, my only experience inside that tunnel was during one of our bus trips, and it was daytime. I stand in the middle of the tunnel. I had a wooden match. I followed the legend to a T. And I remember I lit the match up, I held it up, and just stood there for about a few seconds, and I heard a high-pitched noise coming, and then a small wind came through the tunnel. Not enough to blow the candle out, or the match out, but a little bit. And then I ran outside and I realized it was a train going across the tunnel. Because this tunnel was supposed to be a train tunnel. Yeah, and the actual line was put up on top. It was supposed to go through there, but they canceled that and they put it up on top. So I wondered about that.
I've done the same thing. Well, there was no training in my story, but same thing. I went in with a wooden match. Well, that tunnel, open on both ends like it is, it acts like a wind tunnel. I lit that match, and the wind just funnels through it naturally.
And did it blow out the match?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
But there was no screaming that materialized, or no train running over the top of the tunnel. But it's a natural wind tunnel. So if you do want to test the match theory, try to hold it out of the wind somehow.
yeah, I'll tell you, I can kill your dreams even more. I think Nick would be proud of me. There was a historian that we worked with years and years ago. This is around the time we did the Creepy Canada episode. And this guy, he had interviewed the last living person who used to live in the town that was once behind the Screaming Tunnel. And she said that the term Screaming Tunnel, the legend is completely fake, is what she said. And she said the Screaming Tunnel was something that the townsfolk had come up with because of what was happening in the town with one of the couples. So it was this older couple, and they would constantly get into arguments, and the wife, she would leave the house because she couldn't take it anymore. And they said what she did, and this was almost every single day, she walked into the middle of the tunnel and screamed at the top of her lungs because she wanted everybody to feel the pain she felt about having to deal with her husband. So that was their idea of where the term Screaming Tunnel came from. Whether the legend's true or not is open to debate.
Can you imagine a relationship that bad that sparks an urban legend that's still going to this day?
I would be proud.
I almost think that's scarier. Like if you light a match in the middle of the tunnel, Myrna comes down with a roller in her hair and just
Holding a rolling
complains
pin.
about her husband to you. I'd be like, no thanks.
All right. This is going to spark something.
Daniel,
Yes.
what moves objects, ghosts or poltergeists?
What moves objects? That's a good question. In my experience,
Both can do it.
I think there's really no proof to say either or, but I could tell you experiences like where like a spirit moves something very calmly. I think I told this story on a previous podcast, but just quick. The author Terry Boyle, who wrote Haunted Ontario, had experience at the Inn at the Falls in Bracebridge where he saw an ashtray come off one counter, flow right in front of his face, and then be calmly put on another counter. It wasn't thrown against the wall, it wasn't smashed. So then you would say a ghost is doing that. Mm-hmm. But then a poltergeist could just very well be a ghost that's restless, getting to the point where they're throwing things around, or trying to push people downstairs, or just like trying to, cause all sorts of damage. So really, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just it's energy, either violent energy or just wanting to be noticed, mischievous type energy. Does anybody have anything else to add? All right, that's a nice little tie to the end of this. Anyway, thank you so much for coming out. This is the first time we've done this format, and I have to say, I don't know if you guys will agree, this was actually quite good. Yes, I enjoyed this very much. So yeah, in the future, for those listening, I will continue to run these here at the Pheasant Plucker pretty much every second Tuesday. If you are interested in joining a future one, I will have a form on the website that you can fill out, where you can actually decide as well if you just want to be a witness, which we've had a few here tonight, or if you actually want to take part in the conversation at the main table like many of you wonderful people did this evening. It is completely up to you. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to A Night of Ghosts, and have a great evening.